We're a group of Oklahoma National Guard members now working on the southern border. How about that? The order to send them coming straight from the Oklahoma State House.
And the governor says it's in his state's best interest to help take action at the border and address Washington's failure to secure it. The Oklahoma Governor, Kevin Stitt, is with us now. Governor, welcome. Thanks for coming on. Again, the move to send 50 members of the National Guard to the southern border, it doesn't come without controversy. As you know, Oklahoma, not technically a border state, but what ultimately led to your decision to send those troops?
Well, we're all a border state. We have fentanyl deaths, 500% increase just over the last few years. And to us, it's just total common sense to have a secure southern border. We have to know who's coming into our country. And when Governor Abbott asked for the help of other governors, 13 Republican governors stepped up to help him. And really, it's just the abdication of duty from our president of the United States, from the other side, that is just refusing to secure our borders. It makes no sense to us in Oklahoma, so we're happy to support that. Oklahomans are with me on that.
Governor, why do you think that is? You mentioned Republican states, the ones that are stepping up. Why is it not Democratic states doing the same? They are seemingly affected by fentanyl deaths, human trafficking, et cetera. The migrant issue, we know this from New York City, what we hear from the mayor there. Why is it only Republican-led states that are stepping up, in your opinion?
Yeah, I just think everything has turned political. It's just, it's really disappointing, and I think the American people are frustrated with it. Border security should not be a political issue. I mean, it is a federal law. You cannot enter our country except through the points of entry. There's, I think, 29 points of entry along the Texas border. All we're doing is keeping people from entering our country illegally. Why that's controversial, it's beyond me. It's beyond most Americans. It's nonsensical.
I want to play this sound. This is the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. This is what he says is the real threat coming from our southern border. Take a listen.
The greatest terrorism-related threat that we face in the homeland is the threat of domestic violent extremism. Individuals drawn to violence because of ideologies of hate or false narratives propagated on social media and other online platforms. And the most prominent threat is the threat of white supremacists.
So he's made those comments, Governor. At the same time, he says the border is not open. In your opinion, how would you grade the DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and the work he's done?
I would give him an absolute F. If you think about it, the one policy that needs to change that Trump had in place was just the Remain in Mexico policy. We've got a great Hispanic community in Oklahoma, about 12% of our population. This has nothing to do with legal immigration. This has everything to do with border security and who's coming through our southern borders. And so if you want to seek asylum or you want to immigrate to the United States, you need to do it legally. And you need to remain in Mexico until your court hearing. What the Biden administration has done is cancel that policy, and now they've opened it up. As soon as you touch the U.S. border, come here illegally, they're letting you in, and that's absolutely wrong. It's anti-American. We have to know who's coming through our border, and the fact that the Biden administration is opening our borders, that is what's creating the mass migration, and they have to change the policy to remain in Mexico. And we need to get some true immigration reform going.
As you know, the Department of Homeland Security was formed after the attack on 9/11 in 2001, again, defending the homeland here. You fast forward this, again, some 22 years. You hear the DHS Secretary talking about the greatest threat is white supremacy. He said this multiple times. Again, this is DHS, the head. What goes through your mind? Do you believe that his aspirations or his thought on the greatest threat, again, white supremacy, is accurate?
You know, here's the deal. I've seen this administration attacking parents at school board meetings and standing up for parents' rights. They're trying to change the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion in our country. We're being attacked in Oklahoma because we've approved religious charter schools. So it's unbelievable, the rhetoric that this administration is spewing. We're talking about securing our borders, and that's this guy's job. And now he's trying to flip and say that U.S. citizens are the real problem for border security. It makes no sense. They're trying to just spin you in a circle and get everybody thinking about something else instead of securing the southern border. So let's stay on topic and let's ask the question, why are we not making sure that people are staying in Mexico and having a true immigration policy instead of letting them come across and then having free access to our to all of our services in the U.S.?
All right. We will, of course, keep an eye on the latest in these immigration problems, challenges, and crisis that's taking place. But you did mention another story we're interested in from your state, sir, and that's the discussion over a private religious school receiving public funding. There's a lot of talk about this, sort of a religious charter school in the U.S., and it's facing a lawsuit now. A group called the Oklahoma Parent Legislative Action Committee is trying to block this funding. Again, it's a Catholic virtual school, and the lawsuit claims the school would violate the separation of church and state by receiving public funds. What is your response to this lawsuit?
Well, first off, yeah, the liberal activists are always going to try to sue and try to, confuse the issue. But this is about freedom of religion. And the Supreme Court has said if you have a service, you can't discriminate against a religious organization. So we have charter schools in Oklahoma. They're fantastic. We believe more school choice, more parent choice is good, and let's let parents choose where they want to put their kids in school. So charter schools, you have to decide to send your kid to that school. So if the Jewish community wants to set up a Hebrew school, they're welcome in the state of Oklahoma. If a Christian school or a Catholic school or a Muslim school, and these parents get together and the community says, hey, here's how we want to educate our kids, why is the government standing in the way of a parent's right to choose what values they're going to teach their children? That's what religious freedom is all about. We're so proud to be the first state in the country to approve this. And of course, it's going to be challenged. We think we are on good legal footing. The Catholic Church is really supporting this, and we'll have our day in court, and we think we'll win this.
Talking about the courts in Oklahoma, the Supreme Court just extended a stay on a very controversial case in your state, sir, in Oklahoma, that could have national implications for Native American tribes across the nation. They're expected to rule tomorrow, we believe, on Hooper versus Tulsa. So the big question coming out of it, do local police have the authority to give a Native American tribal citizen a speeding ticket? Do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important. I'm glad you're covering it because it makes no sense whatsoever. The Supreme Court basically has tried to say that Oklahoma, half of our state is a reservation. So, for example, I'm an American Indian. I have my Cherokee card, all 6 of my children. So we're all Oklahomans, though. That's what I try to make sure everybody understands. So in Tulsa, which is a 1 million-person town, the Tulsa Police Department wrote a ticket to Hooper, who happens to be part Native American, and then he took them to court and said, no, you had no right to issue me a ticket. And so the 10th Circuit agreed with him, and 5 of our big tribes signed a amicus brief basically in support of that, saying that the city of Tulsa didn't have any jurisdiction over an Oklahoman/Indian, which is just ridiculous. Our citizens, we should have one set of rules regardless of your race. Everybody should pay the same speeding ticket if you're going to be breaking the law. Nobody should be above the law. And that's my position. That's why I'm fighting so hard to protect all of our citizens. And so to me, it's just pretty common sense. Oklahomans are certainly with me on this issue as well.
All right. It's a very fascinating case, so we'll be watching that as well. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt joining us. Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you.